Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So let's get started. This is a wood duck. Thanks for coming. No. One of the most beautiful birds there are, and without a doubt, the most beautiful duck I feel. So, okay, so here's our presentation for tonight. It's going to be making your wood duck boxes productive. I always like to have a little bit of a bird pun in there, but a lot of times I get folks that say, "Oh, you know, I've had boxes up for a long time. What am I doing wrong? You know, so what is there that I can do?" Oops. So I'm Jeff Balls. I'm president of the Hurricane Marsh Bird Club. I've been ducks kind of rule me. That's how I got into birding. It was through ducks and waterfowl. I've been an avid waterfowl hunter for 45 plus years. I've been placing wood duck boxes out for over 25. I have about 100 of my own personal boxes that I take care of, plus about another 40 to 50 in and around the Hurricane Marsh Education and Visitor Center. So I have learned quite a bit over the years. And I will give you the benefit of my long-term failures. Okay. So we're going to go back a little bit on the history of wood duck boxes. We're going to start off. So this guy here is Art Hawkins. And Art was a student of Aldo Leopold. He was one of his graduate students. Art came from the Ithaca, New York area to be a student of Leopold. And Art worked in the Lake Mills area around Fayville Grove. He liked the area so much, and he actually met his wife there. But Art went on to a distinguished career with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. One of his first things he did after he got out of college, he worked for the U.S. Biological Service, which was a forerunner of the GIS, Geological Information Services, part of the Department of Interior. So he was tasked with, now this was during the late 1920s, early 1930s. At that point, the wood ducks were in serious peril. It was thought that they would probably even go extinct due to the fact that there was unregulated hunting, you know, all the way up until about 1917, when the Migratory Bird Treaty Act took place. And just also their cavities from the timber that it was amount of timber that was cut, and all the trees that were cut, their cavities were taken away. So they were kind of getting it at both ends. They couldn't reproduce fast enough. Their homes were taken away, and they were being harvested at an unsustainable pace. So Art was tasked with to see what he could do. So they thought, since they're a cavity nester, the idea came out that maybe if we could replicate those cavities somehow. So Art went around and climbed a whole bunch of trees along the Illinois River. That's where he was stationed at the time, and did all kinds of research on these cavities. He measured cavity size, entrance, depth, diameter, which way they faced, all kinds of things, how high they were. And then him and another gentleman named Frank Belrose came with an idea of using artificial cavities. So they went and got some cypress wood and pounded together about 70 some boxes and put them out around along the Illinois River. And within a couple of years, they had been successful. So that spawned the wood duck box, and along with many other type of nest boxes, but that was the forerunner in the beginning of the nest box, the wood duck box. So I actually got to know Art later on in life. He lived a full and prosperous life. He lived to the age of 93, I believe, and passed away one spring morning. He had a heart attack, his binoculars around his neck, and he was waiting for the wood ducks to come back to his ponds up in Minnesota. So we can thank the recovery of the wood duck. They've recovered so well, in fact, now that they're the third most harvested duck in the U.S. right now. So. Oops, went the wrong way. Okay. So this is all you really need to do. Put up a box, you put up a welcome sign, and from there on, it should be pretty much good to go. Although maybe it may not be quite that easy, but I always felt a big welcome sign never really hurt at all. So this is actually right in my yard as a driveway. If you drive into my house, and this is in my yard. This particular box has been successful for the last 10, 12 years plus since I put it up there. I originally put that pole up as for a martin house, and I think I had it up 4 or 5 years and never had any martins. So I decided I'm going to repurpose it and took the old martin house down and make put a wood duck box there. So, so a little bit about the wood ducks. They have a pretty good distribution, all except for like the Great Plains. There's a distinct eastern population, and then there's a population along the western coast, mainly along the Pacific Ocean there. Go up somewhat into Canada. But here's the real heart of their breeding density: the upper Midwest across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, all the way into Ohio, and then the southeast U.S. Generally. So that's kind of their stronghold. We were fortunate enough to be really part of their breeding range. So just kind of break it down a little bit more. You're going to kind of see what wood ducks breeding in the state of Wisconsin. This is from a breeding bird atlas that was just concluded a year or two ago. You can see they're pretty well across the whole state of Wisconsin, but a lot of southeastern and the east central part of the state stronghold due to a lot of water there. So this is taken from eBird. So using your eBird data that you submit, and so it's a relative time abundance, and it pretty much follows wood duck relative abundance for the whole year. So it starts off in January, and this is really kind of pretty cool. I always call it kind of the lava lamp for birders. So it gets about May, June. Their range is probably the biggest. Breeding October, second week in October, they all start to come back again. I'll play that one more time if I can. Maybe. So you can get this right from eBird. They have a bunch of different species. I think over 100 and some species that you can actually watch this kind of migration patterns and in relative abundance throughout the year. Pretty cool. Okay, so we're going to get into the Nestbox itself. I have in the chat right at the top links to the Wood Duck Society page, and if you go on plans, this is what you're kind of going to see, and then how to make wood duck box. It's not real hard, and this is how it kind of goes together. I'm going to kind of point out a few things here that are kind of critical. One is this hole here, and this hole is a very unique. It's 4 inches wide and 3 inches high. It's kind of an oval, and there's a cool story to that, how that came to be. So when Art Hawkins and Frank Belrose were trying to determine, yes, these cavities would be great, but they wanted to restrict raccoons, which was just a plague of nesting wood ducks. So they decided what would be the smallest possible cavity that they could make that the wood ducks would get in. So they actually had a wood duck in the freezer. So they went and took that wood duck, cut it in half, measured how big it would, small as it could get to get in the box. And that's where they came up with that 4 inches wide and 3 inches high dimension. Other things I'm going to point out here, just a little bit, make sure you have some type of mesh underneath there, side opening box. So this is kind of the pattern that I use. The height is not real critical. I've, a couple inches either way. I use front and back a 1x10, and then the sides I use a 1x8, and then I use this little egg holder here on the inside, 1x4. And that's what the box looks like. And we did a little video tonight.
Hey, welcome. I want to talk a little bit about what makes a good nest box, and in particular, wood duck boxes. So first of all, we have to make sure we have proper hole sizing. It's going to be 4 inches wide, 3 inches high. We have to make sure that the box is able to be opened as well, so you clean it out, do the maintenance on it. We also want to make sure the box has a screen or saw curve in here, so the ducklings can, when they're ready to jump out, be able to climb up and jump out. This particular box here, I like to make sure I put this, what I call egg guard on here. It goes on the inside of the box. So when you're checking, eggs don't roll out. It's a good gauge to where to fill up your shavings and sawdust too. So you know you have enough in there to bury an egg. So this is a good box here. It's screwed together, drilled the screw holes so nothing split.
You stopped it. You stopped it.
The bottom is recessed in here, so there's no wicking that's happening. The water, when it hits the sides, will drop off and not wick into the bottom. and get things wet. And I attach my boxes with one hole here. This gets drilled in and puts it onto a piece of pipe, one bolt at the top, and that holds it. Thank you.
So that was just a little video we made this evening, try to cover all the things. So when you're assembling the boxes, use screws instead of nails. The boxes last much longer, and pre-drill the screw holes that you're going to do. Otherwise, a lot of times, if you're working with that, you put the screws in and the wood splits, and that's just an area that's going to get moisture and in it and rot. I like a nice overhanging roof, so it rain doesn't get in the hole. I found that the material that you put in the box, if it's coarser, the better. I use pet bedding, but if you have somebody that has a planer, that is really good stuff. So, and then pre-drill is stuff, your box and your guards when you're at home before you take them out in the field makes it that much easier. That I found. So we've got the box made. We know the dimensions. We've got the box. We've got the pole. We have the predator guard. So where do we actually put them? So I always use a pretty simple formula. Ducks like water, right? And then a wood duck is going to like, well, wood. So anywhere where wood meets water, that's where I would put wood duck boxes. You can put them near water, but they will nest up to as far as 2 miles away from water. When I say, near water, it doesn't have to be exactly, within feet. It can be half mile, mile and a half. Here in our part of the state, we're pretty fortunate to have abundance of creeks, wetlands. So you generally almost always going to have water within a half or 3/4 of a mile in our neck of the part of the state anyhow. So near water, woody vegetation, could be trees, could be down trees. One thing though that you really want to make sure of is that that hen has a clear flight path to and from the box. So if there's any branches or leaves or brush in the way between the box, covering that entrance, they're not going to use it. So I've had some boxes that were really successful at the Horicon Marsh, and the willows grew up and got in the way, and they didn't use it this last year. So I found it was much easier than try to cut the willows. I had just, take and move the box about 25, 30 feet or whatever it is, so they have a clear flight path. Like I said, you want to make sure there's no branches, no vegetation in the way. When that hen is on a nest, she wants to come and go as secretively as possible. Now, something that I learned over my time period, avoid open water areas. Ducks will use them. They'll be great. I mean, it's great for them. But here in Wisconsin, our part of the state, if you put them in open water, the ice will take them out. I learned that the hard way. I lost a bunch of boxes when I put them out, the edges of bays and sloughs, and when the ice went out, they were all gone. Poles were bent up and boxes were wrecked, and so I spent a lot of time, for nothing. Also, one kind of unique thing that I learned, avoid the outside bends of streams. as you put literally a stake in the sand, or stake at the edge of a stream, you're going to realize that stream moves over a period of time. I was putting them on the outside of bins. There was a couple, I thought, oh, I put about 5-6 feet away. That'll be enough. You know, the ducklings would jump and they're right in the water. 3 years later, well, it's only 3 feet away. And then another 2 years, it's right at the water's edge. And then after that, they were literally in the water. They had fell over and were gone. So that's one kind of thing I kind of avoid from now on. I put them on the inside bends of the streams. Now you can put them, 10, 15 feet away there. And you don't have to worry about the stream taking them and running them away.
Click, click. Now you can go down.
So this is a horrible picture of a rainy day, cloudy day through some windows, but this is when I knew I had a critical housing shortage here. This is a picture of a wood duck on top of a bluebird house. And that was my clue that I needed to put up some more wood duck houses. This was probably 20 some years ago. So this is kind of showing you what the Wood Duck Society recommends and showing their best practice method. It's a pipe or a pole here with a cone-shaped predator guard. And above that, put your guard right underneath the box. The box doesn't necessarily have to be very high. 8 feet high is plenty. One thing that we are in consensus with, and never put them on a tree. I know that was originally how it was done, but sooner or later, you're going to get something in there that you don't want. It's going to be raccoons, it's going to be squirrels, it could be a lot of different things. And so always get them on poles with a predator guard. So this is kind of the setup that I use. It's a EMT conduit, electrical conduit. It's 1.25 inches in diameter. Comes in 10-foot sections. I basically dig or pound the pole into the ground until it's solid, which is about 2 feet. And then put this 4-inch PVC guard underneath it. You cut that 30 inches long, so you'll get 4 of those guards out of a 10-foot section. And you attach that with 1 bolt right at the top up here and put it so it wobbles. That's the kind of key. So if Mr. Raccoon tries to climb that thing, he has a hard time climbing it. He can't get a solid hold, and that's what happens. So, and this is the reason we use predator guards. This was a box that was along my route. This was not my box, but someone had put it up years before I came along. Never really checked it. Never monitored it, and next thing you know, it's raising raccoons instead of ducks. So this is a classic example of what not to do. So when you're monitoring your wood duck nest boxes, you can do it a couple different ways, a couple different strategies. Minimum of once a year. Now is a great time to get it done, or even before. I start usually right about the first of the year. It depends upon ice conditions and river conditions and snow conditions and how cold it is, and try to get out and get the majority of them done before it gets, you never know when the thaw is going to hit. And you also can monitor during the nesting season. So that's I have a number of boxes that I monitor during the nesting season right in and around my house and property. I don't get to all 100 of them during the nesting season. There's just no way I could get to all of them. But I do monitor probably several dozen boxes between the education center and my own. So if you're going to monitor, do so in the afternoon. Generally, most of your wood ducks, when they're laying eggs, most of that happens in the mornings. So in the afternoon, probably, well, it's a lot less disturbance on the hens. And what I just monitor with is with a digital camera. All you have to do is just walk up to the box, reach up into the hole, stick your camera in, take a picture, and see what's there. A lot of times you walk up and like, oh, nothing's happening in this box, and I haven't seen anything around or nothing. You take a picture and there's a hen sitting on eggs, or so it's pretty amazing. A lot of times they don't make a peep, don't make a sound. So the hen and the drake, the hens themselves don't get enough credit for being beautiful. I mean, they're a spectacular duck, but the drakes are just so gaudy and beautiful. They just don't get the credit that they deserve. So as the wood ducks come back down south, they work their way. The hen will come and check out these nest boxes. Generally, first they will sit on top of them, kind of look around, look at the area. Is this going to be safe here? Is there any predators around? So then she'll start to look right here. She's going from the top of the box. She's looking down in that hole. Is there anything occupied? Is there any danger in it? Is there something else that's going to be in there? Then she generally will jump down, actually hold on to that hole and look inside the box, and then eventually go in, check it out. She probably do that for a number 3, 4, 5 days in a row. Make sure that box is going to be safe, cozy, dry, and be a good spot to lay eggs. And then she will start to lay. So she will lay 1 egg a day for about the first 6 days. And when she lays those eggs, then she will bury those eggs in that sawdust or that shavings that you put in there. And you must put the shavings in. Don't forget that for sawdust. I use the pet bedding. That's what they use to hide their eggs for about the first 6 or so. And then after 6, then she will lay an egg, continue to lay an egg a day, but she'll start to pull down from her breast and use that as a blanket for when she leaves. So typically they lay about between 12 and 15 eggs. So once they get those last eggs laid, say about egg number 13, from those 6 days, 7 days that she's been pulling down out of her breast, she's going to have this nice blanket. So when she starts to sit on the eggs, starts to incubate them, heat those eggs up, get those embryos started. And when she leaves on recess twice a day, mornings and evenings, she will cover those eggs up using the down that she has pulled from her breast. Just a kind of a cool waterfall fact that the female wood duck needs to ingest 2.5 ounces of invertebrates to get enough protein and minerals to produce 1 egg. So that's about 300 invertebrates an hour for 8 hours to lay 1 egg. And they lay 8 to 15 eggs. So that's pretty much of an equivalent of a a woman who would give birth every day for 12 days straight. So just the nutrition and everything that needs to go in there, and it's pretty amazing how they lay those eggs and produce those eggs. So here's what you would like to see. This is a hen that's gone out on recess. There's lots of eggs in there. There's probably close to 20. And that comes from what we call compound nesting or dump nesting, where more than one hen will lay an egg in a box. There's been some studies done out in California where they caught as many hens as they could in boxes and put the chips in them like you would like pets, you know, the little radio chip. And they put readers on all the boxes within a big area. And they found out that every box had at least 2 hens that had visited and laid eggs in those boxes. So we used to say, think that, you know, one hen lays a dozen eggs, and we're finding that that's not necessarily the truth. That we're getting more hens that are going to produce that clutch. I think it's a genetic diversity thing, that the more diversified the genetics within that clutch, if that clutch survives, it's going to be much more genetically diverse when those ducklings hatch and grow to adulthood, and so kind of their strategy. So they found out some boxes had as many as 7 different hens that had entered and laid eggs in those nest boxes. So it's one of those things that I think with the technology that we're getting, we're really kind of getting blown away as far as what we used to think was fact, and no longer is. So once the hen starts to incubate, it takes approximately 30 days for the hen, for those eggs to hatch. The process of hatching is a very slow, hard thing on the ducklings. It takes about 24 hours from when that duckling first starts to crack. It'll be like a bump on an egg, and the bump comes outward rather than inward. So it's kind of weird looking. So it takes about 24 hours for that duckling to use that egg tooth, which is on top of their beak right here, to go all the way around that egg and to pop out of the shell. This one here, we just happened to be out for a walk one day, and I thought, well, as long as we're here, we're going to check on this box. And it was kind of high, so I couldn't see in it. So I just kind of opened it up, and I felt in there, and I'm like, gosh, something's all wet in there. What's going on? And I finally jumped up and could see, and like, oh my God, there's actually ducklings that are actually hatching right then when we were there. So that was a pretty cool moment. This one here just happened we literally watched come out of an egg. So that was really neat thing we got to see. So the ducklings, here you see some ducklings in a box. The egg shells get crushed up. Either the mother crushes them up to make room in the box, or to put calcium. She'll actually eat some of those egg shells and put calcium back in her body. And then what you have left over here are the membranes that are left. And they're kind of going to look like a flattened ping pong ball. They're a little kind of rubbery. And after a successful hatching, you're going to see a lot of the membrane still here. Of course, you have the ladder there, and the shavings that are in the box. So once they hatch, they spend about 24 to 36 hours in the nest box. And after that, they never come back again, unless they're females. They'll come back in to lay eggs. But once they leave the nest, they can no longer get back in the nest, and B, they have no reason to go back there. So once they come out, they're hungry. They're looking to feed. Insects are going to be their sole diet for about the first 10 days to 2 weeks. And that's what they're looking for. So once the ducklings hatch, they've dried out, they're ready to go. The hen generally is going to come out the day of the jump, and she is going to come out of the box. She's going to look around for a long time. She may go in and out of the box. And this is where, after watching dozens of these, every hen has its own particular personality. Some of them are very, very squeamish. Some of them are really calm. I've had one hen that was in and out of the box 9 times, and others that came at edge of the box, looked down, looked right, looked left, 20 seconds, and down she was, and the jump was on. So everyone is different. I've sat in blinds watching them for 6 to 7 hours waiting for them to jump. You get out there at 6 o'clock, and a lot of times it's noon before they go. I've never had one go past 12:15 or 12:20. Generally, it's going to happen in the morning. I feel they kind of wait until the grass dries off. So it's kind of like mid-morning-ish, but that's not necessarily always the case. I've had some ones that I said, well, I get out to the blind by so the hen comes out, checks to make sure that areas free from
Temporarily.
predators. And then they the hen, once she's satisfied that it's free from predators, she jumps down and she'll start to call. And that's where the young will respond to the hen calling, and they'll come out, take a look around for themselves, and that's when they'll look. And it's when they start to jump. And so I have a video here. Hopefully I'll play.
I did something wrong.
Oh. So this is on my silo. So you see the hen back and forth there. She's doing the chittering, the calling. That thump that you heard there before was one of the ducklings actually hit the camera. that jumped. So this particular jump I had, there were 2 GoPros. And so this is a part here I slowed down. You actually see when they jump, they actually flap their little wings. Not that it helps all that much, but back to live speed there again. Jumps can take anywhere from a few minutes to up to 7-8 minutes. Depends upon how many birds or ducklings are in the box, how nervous the hen is, what's going on in the area. Friend of mine, one of our club members, has the record. He has 12 ducklings jump in 54 seconds. I had a box that had 20 ducklings in, and that took about 1 minute and 20 seconds. So it was just literally one right after another. Like it was almost like a clown car. Like, when are they going to stop coming in?
Not letting anybody else in.
So that's the edited version of that. The live version took about 7 to 8 minutes. Okay. So there's if you had with one could capture about 1/1600th of a second. That's what they look like coming out of the box. That's probably one of my favorite duckling photos that I've taken over the years. Once they're out of the box, then the mom leads them to water. This particular one, I happen to have blind right on the edge of the trail. After they jumped, they had to go right past me to get to the water. So literally about 30 seconds or so, or 30. The clicks you see there are heard. That was myself taking a bunch of photos. Whoops. What's going to look like after a successful nest? And you're going to see all those membranes there. So the hen's going to lead them towards water. And the ducklings are going to start feeding on insects for about the first 2 weeks of their life. So you're going to see places with a lot of emergent vegetations, the good insect life, and some vegetation that is overhanging. So these ducklings like these logs in the water. You got overhanging cover here. kept them hidden from predators, avian predators. They get out there, they can thermoregulate themselves. So they're not in the cold water. You see there, they just start to grow feathers. So a few other birds that we get in the wood duck nest boxes, we get hooded mergansers. Probably about 30% of my boxes that I have, you have hooded mergansers in them. Once in a great while, you'll have screech owls. So either use them as a roost cavity or as a nest cavity as well. And if you're very, very lucky, this was one of the first nesting buffleheads ever recorded in the state of Wisconsin. So once in a while, you get other birds in there as well. This is the most ambitious house wren in the state of Wisconsin. I don't know how many sticks are in there, but it filled up the whole entire box. And here's a good example of hooded merganser eggs are going to be bigger, whiter, and rounder. They're on the left-hand side, and wood duck is going to be on the right side. They're going to be more of a traditional egg shape and going to be a little darker, either greenish or brownish. Other things that may inhabit is starlings. Starlings are bad news. They can peck eggs. They can build their nests over the top of wood duck eggs. So there's another thing that you definitely want to keep controlled. Starlings are not native, so you can remove them, remove their eggs, remove them. So without any damages. So this is one where a raccoon has got into a box, chewed the opening open up. You see the hair, you see the scratches and stuff around there. So here again, just to kind of reinforce what these ducklings like and what they're in. So the other thing is, get a lot of questions. What can I do? I'm not having success. What can I do to get wood ducks to my pond or to my shoreline or area? So here you see they love overhanging vegetation. They love brush piles. If you can bring some logs in, that's always a good idea. Something for them to loaf on or sit on, or ducklings to sit on. Also great for turtles and macroinvertebrates and all kinds of other things. Great activity to get your family included into. This is my son and my two grandsons. They are now 17 and 18. So this is how they learn to count. They learn to count eggs in wood duck boxes and bluebird boxes. So this is my oldest grandson there when he was about 13 or so. Now he's 18 and helps out with the nest boxes and wood duck banding. So this is a video taken from a trail camera, and this was a part of a wood duck and duck banding program. And this is rocket nets that are going out to capture, so we can band ducks, put some metal bands on them, and through that banding process, the return rate, where they're coming from, tells us a lot about the ducks. So I would also encourage you to, when you're monitoring your nest boxes, to report those and put it into Project Nest Watch. It's a great way. There's an app on your phone that you can use. When you go and visit that, it'll track your location. So it'll give you exactly where that box is. You give it a name or identifier. Mine, I put, numbers on them, kind of the habitat surrounding it. And then every time you can go visit, you can record what's going on, how many eggs are in the box, if there's adult present, what condition the nest is in. Is it just starting? Are there eggs present? Is there hatchlings present? All those kind of things. So it helps you keep track of your nest boxes as well, and the success as well. And it keeps you, lets you know how that box is done from year to year. So when you get to have a bunch of different boxes, it's always better than trying to remember, like, oh, what happened to this box last year? So, okay, just kind of recap to everything. Your box has to have a 3x4 inch hole. Is it able to open for monitoring? Do you have shavings or sawdust in the box? Does it have a ladder or saw kerfs inside? Is it mounted on a pole with a predator guard? Is it faced with a clear flight path for a hen, so she can come and go easily? And then if you'd like, you can monitor with a camera, cell phone camera, and don't forget to enjoy the process. I always say that the monitoring is probably the most fun for me and where I learn the most. That's always a great learning experience. You get kind of bonded with the hens, and it was pretty fun. I've several boxes in my yard. I have video cameras on them. I had video cameras on 2 boxes last year. So it was pretty amazing to watch all what goes on. You pretty much time the hens when they can come and go check on the eggs. So with that, I sincerely apologize about that interruption. We will take a look into that. I'll get to some of your questions here now. So what kind of screen? It's a 1/4 inch cloth. I've had the squirrels as well. Some of the early boxes that I put up, sometimes they did get by the predator guards, and I had one box where I opened up and it was like, oh, there's some hair and stuff in here. So I started tugging on it, and next thing I know, I'm pulling on a squirrel's tail, and it jumps literally over my shoulder, and I was on a ladder at the time, and another reason to make sure you have that predator guard. So question of what time do they start to come back? They'll be coming back here next week or so ish. Where are we at? Probably about the middle of March. And I generally get my first egg in the boxes right around April 1st. And then generally by April 15th, they're all starting to lay about that time. First ducklings usually get about mid-May, or Memorial Weekend is about the peak of them. Tom says, yeah, so we clean out. Yes. So cleaning out the old eggs. I found out just by monitoring the boxes in our yard, as soon as you get one that has jumped, is done, you clean out those nests within a day or two. You could have another hen come right back in there and lay as well. 3 out of the 5 boxes in our yard last year had produced 2 different clutches. Laura asked, is there a certain direction the whole face for better results? Nope. We haven't found anything. As long as you have a clear flight path, can go any direction. If you think about it, you know, those natural cavities in trees can face any direction, so it doesn't really matter. So how long does it take to fly once they jump out of the box? It takes about 60 to 70 days for them to achieve flight status once they get out of the box. So it's a long, perilous time for them. Generally, if they make it the first week, they have about a 50-50 chance or better to achieve flight. So they're the first week. Not only, you know, predators, but weather has a lot to do with it too. A cold, wet, rainy. Even though they're ducks, they still don't have the thermal protection from you know, from rain and cold. Okay, so somebody asked about greasing up the PVC pole. What happens? No, don't grease the poles. What happens is that grease dries out. There's dust and dirt gets on it, dries it out, and actually creates like glue on there. So if you're going to do anything, wax the pole, like a little turtle wax or something like that, car wax, put that on there. But don't put any grease on it, because that grease dries out and actually will aid climbing. So yes, feral cats are always a predator. They'll take anything. So cats indoors, remember that.